I'm glad to have the opportunity to contribute to these important statements on such important issues. I just want to say that over the past 12 months or 18 months, I have asked the Taoiseach on a number of occasions in this House if the Government would ensure that in every communication, both verbal and written, with the British Government, that they reiterate the total opposition of the people of this country to the proposed amnesty. An amnesty for murderers, be they state forces or people from paramilitary organisations, totally unacceptable. And I'm very glad that the Taoiseach and Minister Coveney reiterated that very, very clearly in their contributions here earlier today. And I was very glad that in Derry on Sunday, Taoiseach took the opportunity as well to state outright opposition by the government here, and I think by the Oireachtas as well, by the people of this island, to any such proposal. No way is the idea of an amnesty for murderers acceptable. Under no circumstances should it be acceptable in any democratic country. Introducing such a proposal means that the British government want to put an end to all investigations. Imagine a government proposing to close down existing investigations and give up on whatever chance there is of getting the truth. I have dealt over the years with many families who fortunately lost loved ones, close family members, and nobody has ever been brought to justice for those heinous crimes inflicted on innocent people. And I have to say, all those individuals and families and groups that I have engaged with over the years, they act with such grace and dignity in their campaigning to get the truth. They're not out for revenge. They're seeking the truth. That's the message that comes across to all of us who engage with such families and such individuals. Imagine a government putting forward a proposal to close down all investigations when you have families and individuals who have campaigned for decades to try to get the truth about what happened to their loved one on those fatal and tragic occasions. It's absolutely appalling. We'd be jumping up and down if it was some state in Latin America or somewhere was making such a proposal. And I'm very glad, and Minister Coveney, in all your communications at department level and ministerial level, along with the Taoiseach, and the Taoiseach told us clearly in this House on numerous occasions that he has conveyed that very, very clearly to Mr Johnston as well. I was struck reading the Derry Journal at the weekend by an article by Colm Eastwood, MP for Derry, where he was writing an article coinciding with the 50th anniversary of that awful and tragic day in Derry. And I quote, "The world knows what happened on the streets of Derry on January the 30th, 1972. Faced with peaceful civil rights demonstrators standing against institutional discrimination which had denied them, their parents and their children, the same opportunities in housing, voting and jobs that others had, the British Army responded by indiscriminately murdering 14 unarmed men and children. 14 people, 6 of them children, went out without so much as a stone in their hands to demonstrate their strong and peaceful opposition to the oppression visited upon our communities by a state steeped in sectarianism, and they didn't come home. And now, with clear plans to prevent the investigation or prosecution of historic offences, this British government is launching a full-scale assault on victims and survivors across our society." Unquote, MP Colm Eastwood. I always recall the comment of John Hume after those awful murders on that day 50 years ago, when he said, and he described the soldiers as uniformed murderers. A man who campaigned for decades, champion of peace on our land, he aptly said it all with that particular phrase. Minister Coveney, you will recall many exchanges we have had over the years here in relation to the Dublin Monaghan bombings, where and I know your department, yourself and successive ministers of all political parties have raised consistently with the British government the need to ensure a full and comprehensive investigation into those awful bombings on that day in 1974. There were unanimous requests in this House in 2008, 11 and 16, I recall, that called on the British government to ensure that, that an independent legal person would be given access to all files and papers pertaining to those bombings. Sadly, the British government have not responded to the request of a sovereign parliament, the sovereign parliament of a neighbour. And quite rightly, Those motions call on the British government to allow access by an independent international judicial figure to all original documents relating to the Dublin and Monaghan bombings, as well as the Dublin bombings of 1972 and 1973, the bombings of Kay's Tavern in Dundalk, and the murder of Seamus Ludlow. Sadly, Seamus's brother passed away, Kevin, passed away in my own county a few months ago. And he said to me at one stage, "I'll go to my grave, Brendan, and I won't have got the truth about the murder of my brother." Here in December, just before the Dáil rose for Christmas, I raised again the terrible bombing of the 28th of December 1972 in my own home area in Belturbet, County Cavan, where 2 teenagers were killed, Geraldine O'Reilly and Patrick Stanley. There is clear evidence now that that bomb was brought across the border from Fermanagh, planted in Belturbet, 2 young people killed, innocent teenagers, and many others injured on that night. We have never had, in Northern Ireland or in Britain, the proper, full and comprehensive investigation into those murders on that night. I went to Belturbet, as I do on an annual basis, and said a prayer at the memorial, the monument to Geraldine and Patrick. And I said to myself, last December, that was the 49th anniversary of those murders. And here we are, a half-century on, and nobody has been brought to justice. Never mind has nobody been brought to justice, but nobody has got the truth. I said to Taoiseach privately a week ago or so, I think that the anger, the worry, the concern of families is not abating. It's getting more intense, that grief, because so many people, we're all getting older, the years are going by, and sadly so many families fear that they will go to their eternal world without ever getting the truth. These are issues, Minister, that the government must continue to attach the utmost importance to. Those families of those victims and the victims who are gone, we need to continue to do everything to support them. Thank you, Laskin Corla.